The Burrows of Berea is a conversational podcast. We study the Bible and we talk about it.
Not all of us are of the same faith, and one of us doesn't actually have a faith.
And that's wonderful. We all love one another, and we're going to continue to talk about these things.
The things we believe in and the things we believe about what we read in the Bible. Not all of these are necessarily true. Some of it is opinion and speculation. Thank you for
listening and speculating with us.
There you go. That was good. Yes.
You are listening to the Burrows of Berea.
Well, welcome back to the Burrows of Berea. I am Rick Welch, and to my left is Billy Eye Candy Kimsey.
Like cotton candy. Now that's some sweet fluffing.
Fluffing?
Well, you know, cotton candy's fluffing.
That's what they say about me because, he's not fat, he's fluffy.
The fair's here. So, yeah, cotton candy.
That's right.
It's getting about that season.
And oddly, to my left, Cherry, the Annihilator Lewis.
Hello.
I don't even know what song that was. Was that like a circus song?
Yeah. It was.
Cherry, the Lion Tamer. No. And Sarita, the Edgerton.
Hey, y'all.
Hey, behind the glass, Rocket Man, Andy Bishop. Big Daddy Carter.
Oh, yeah.
By the way.
Did you hear the stereo?
Yes.
Okay.
It hasn't come out. These guys they've heard it by this point, though. The one in stereo is wild. You guys haven't heard it yet. It's coming out.
Oh, there's a treat in the next one, too. The one I did one today.
Oh, did you?
There's a treat in there,
That's
too.
awesome.
Is this the one you forgot the F-bomb?
Yeah. I got to go back and get the F-bomb out of it. Yeah. I realized there's an F-bomb, an extraneous F-bomb, and the one I didn't even mail it to you yet. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, straight out of Compton, Ralph Hicks.
Represent.
And even though this isn't a holiday edition, we haven't heard from her in a while. My wife, Holly, is here.
Hello. Hey.
Yeah.
Hey.
The special reason that she's here is because we have a special guest today for our next testimony episode. My wife went to college with him at App State, and I learned about App State after they beat Michigan.
Is that all on your phone?
Is it too soon to say go?
Do you do all that on your phone?
Do all what on my phone?
The college.
Wow.
Hey, I wasn't there.
Yes.
App
2
State.
out of 3 ain't bad.
App State, yeah. Anyway, our friend and my friend, Nick Eller.
Hey, how do you follow the cotton candy thing? That's
You
don't. You just do
go with
your
it.
own thing.
There's a candy joke every single podcast.
Yeah,
Melts-
that's all I do. That's all I do.
Melts in your mouth, not in your hand.
Yes, it's very fun. Except for the times when he doesn't do it. Because we have too many in a row, and he's like, I got nothing.
If we surprise him,
That happened twice. Okay, one
Come
time.
on.
One time. Okay.
Just leave me alone already.
Well, anyway, let's jump into this one, okay? So, Nick, first of all, thank you for being here, and this is by far the most that we've had in the studio for a while. It's been a while, so I hope that you don't. That's a lot of people, okay?
it's a lot of people.
Yeah. So, Nick, have you listened to any of this podcast at all?
I have.
Have you listened to any of the testimony?
I have.
Okay. So then my first question that's coming.
I do.
So, to the best of your ability, can you tell me your earliest memory of when you heard the name Jesus Christ?
So I grew up in church. My parents had me in church for as long as I can remember. So I would say earliest memory was probably in Sunday school from probably age around 4 or 5.
Wow. Yeah. And so, now you're originally from Robbinsville, North Carolina?
I am.
Yeah. And so, were you a Baptist?
I am.
Okay.
Fallen somewhere in there.
Right.
Christian. Let's go with that.
Okay. Very
Let's
good.
just go with that.
So, you're raised in church. So, your
Yes.
family were believers.
Yes.
All right. So, nobody is born naturally a believer. This happens. It's a spiritual thing that happens to people. So, take us to that point. I don't know when that happened for you. Was that young or was it older? Or
I'd say probably as a believer, I would say, my high school years.
Okay.
That's when I became more aware of, what Christ had done, as far as the crucifixion and all that. Mm-hmm. That's when I was aware of it, and it's when I chose to be a Christian. But
yeah, so tell us about that salvation story. Like, what's going on?
It was something that just internally I've been dealing with, questioning about. Mm-hmm. Obviously going through high school and all of that, I had a lot of questions, but I always been in church and I'd seen several of my friends kind of go through that salvation journey themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think a lot of that was kind of, you know, you've seen other people do it, and it was just like, you know, kind of, I don't want to say waiting my turn, but I had questions.
Sure.
You know, as far as like, what was I feeling? And, you know, hey, was I guess, quote unquote lost? Was, you know, what was going on inside? What would happen if I was to die today? You know, what would happen, you know, 16, 17-year-old me, what would happen if I was to die then? You know, what happens with my soul then? And that was some of the stuff that was kind of questioning. And I think I became more and more aware of that, and finally kind of came to a breaking point at that point in time of, hey, I know that there's something missing. Mm-hmm. And that's when I kind of decided to turn things over to God at that point. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I chose to be a Christian at that point at a young age.
Yeah. Was that in a church setting, or was that? It was?
Yes.
So like an altar experience?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember those days? I don't know. Anybody else went to the altar in this room?
Yeah.
Yeah. You feel that feeling, like that nervous, you're dying and you have to get up in front of everybody and walk down, and, you know, but boy, I tell you, when you get down
the
there,
walk of shame almost.
it feels like it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But then when you get down there, then after, everybody says, like, I feel like a weight came off me, you know? And I always wondered, is that because you were nervous and now you're not? I know what it meant.
Probably,
I get it.
Well, I like that he said it was a choice. It was, you know, when he chose to believe.
Yeah.
That's a choice I can get behind.
Mm-hmm. Sure. And then I think, now, Cherry, you had a salvation experience in the pew, right? And so
Yes.
did you, right, Sarita? Your husband led you
That's correct.
in the pew.
That's correct.
How about you, Billy?
I was in church. Yeah.
You were in church?
Yep.
Was it your
Altar
husband?
experience?
No.
Okay.
Was it your what?
So was it your husband?
Yeah,
That's the
Did your
podcast
husband-
after this.
Did your husband lead you to the Lord? So, and yours too, Holly, you went, it was an altar experience. Now, Ralph, you were a little bit different, right? Because for you, this was about taking communion for you.
Well, yeah, I was raised in church, but yeah, for me, I was sitting in the pew, and the Lord said, "Come on up to receive Holy Communion," and I was scared to death. And it's funny. I was just telling somebody about this yesterday. When I got to the end there, I didn't remember exact because I'd just become an altar boy, so I hadn't been watching people from the front to see what they do. So I took a step to the left out, and I turned around and I looked at the person's face in front of me. They said, "Amen." They closed their eyes, put their head back, and stuck their tongue out. So I said, "I can do that." So I was next up. I said, "Amen." And that was it.
That's funny. Yeah. So Nick, you're in good company in here because a lot of people have had that similar experience. So what changes? Like for you, you're a teenage boy. You're obviously you're curious at 16, 17. There's a lot going on. So take us from there to now. Like tell us a little bit about your life and what it was like once you first became a believer.
So I think what a lot of people probably experience early on, right? Like it's easy. Mm. You know, it's easy to live that life early on. And for me, I felt that, you know, it was easy to stick to those values and things like that. And then life happens.
Yeah.
Right. So that was 17 years old, turned 40 years old in July. Mm-hmm. And I have lived, I would say probably somewhere in my mid-20s was probably the onset. I have lived most of that up until I was 40 with unmedicated bipolar and PTSD. Mm. And so there's been some experiences throughout that. Now, there's been a marriage, 3 kids that have happened in between there. And then kind of and I guess the bulk of my story is, or the most impactful part of my story is kind of what happened up until the last part of getting help, which was the hardest part to talk about. Is there's been 2 suicide attempts in that, which the mental health side doesn't get talked about a whole lot, right? And that's
something. Yeah, but it's common with PTSD and it's common with bipolar.
Yeah.
And I think probably I think it's a little bit better now than it used to be in the church, but it was sort of a hush-hush thing that we didn't talk about.
I feel like that was everywhere, though.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I feel like it was
I think it's better now. but-
Cultural, not just church. It was cultural at large.
Oh, that's true, but I think it's a little bit different in church, Andy, because God solves all your problems.
So there's always that thing where like being sick is somehow ungodly in a way. Like people don't outwardly think that, but it's always got that stench.
There is
like, why are you sick? What did you do?
Right.
Yeah.
And so it went hush hush, But so for you, Nick, you've been diagnosed now, right? Mm-hmm. So before you lived most of your life undiagnosed with this, but you had these issues.
Yes.
You also had a wreck, a pretty severe wreck.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Can you talk about that?
Yes. So when I was, this was actually my senior year. So this wasn't much long. So this wasn't far after actually becoming a Christian. Yeah. I had a really bad automobile accident, put me in the hospital for 3 days, unconscious. Wasn't expected to survive that. So that was kind of a miracle in and of itself. They can't pinpoint that was actually the cause of anything. However, there's a lot of theories out there in the medical community right now as far as, the issues with, severe brain injuries like that and how that contributes to it.
That sort of physical trauma results in brain injuries all of the time.
Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when you think about, the NFL have really been getting into this lately about concussions or more than one concussion. A wreck where you're knocked out for 3 days, it's a little bit different type of trauma.
Sam Kinison, whatever his name is, to cite a really old example, was a completely different human being before and after a car wreck.
Yes.
The character, was a result of a physical injury, like literally different person.
I didn't know that because I know that he was like a Christian pastor. Did you know that?
A lot of that was actually after the car wreck.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it was the same attention-seeking sort of thing that put him into stand-up comedy. But he was not a big old spaz. He was kind of a mild-mannered, nice guy, got in a car wreck, and then he was like Sam Kinison. He's like screaming and doing lines of coke. And all at once.
I know, yeah.
All at once. Yeah.
That's crazy.
It happens.
You guys know who Sam Kinison is, right?
Oh, yeah.
One of my favorite things he talks about is they wanted to send food to the Ethiopians, and he would go over there and he'd grab a handful of sand and he'd say, "You see this? Nothing grows in it. You need to move to where the food is."
He's not lying.
Anyway, so
but it's tougher. I mentioned it's tougher too. You're a boy, you're a growing boy, and you're kind of raised, at least in my southern home, is if you're hurting, you just rub some dirt on it and you get over it. And you get past it. Yeah.
Well, they didn't change that for the North, for the record.
And my daughter's just the same way. You rub some dirt on it, you'll be fine.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, just shake it off and move on.
Well, it was something, for me, and this isn't saying anything bad about anyone else. That was in my life at the time. It was just not something that we talked about.
Yeah.
As far as the things going on internally, it was, you just didn't speak about it. That was just, there were certain triggers that caused a lot of things that, looking at it now, the more and more I've learned about kind of what was going on in my head, it's like, okay, that makes sense now, but it's, you just chalked it up to, being a jerk.
Yeah.
Well, when you're young like that, you don't have the maturity to understand what's going on. And if no one's talking about it, that means, well, maybe it's only me and maybe something's wrong with me.
Exactly.
And you internalize that stuff.
But sometimes we're benefiting from having Google at our fingertips 24/7. But in your case, maybe your parents just didn't know.
Yeah.
Because, for instance, my son got a concussion playing football last fall. And I was doing some research on the internet, and I saw that it can cause suicidal ideation, depression. Nobody told me. The doctor didn't tell me that. If I hadn't been Googling it or DuckDuckGoing it, then I would not have known. Mm-hmm. And so a friend of mine called and said, "Hey, could you pray for my son? He just has a concussion." And I said, "Let me tell you this in case nobody else has. Watch for the signs of depression." No one told me until it was almost too late.
That's something that that we as a species have learned in our own lifetimes. Like that is not
Yes.
like in the 80s, they weren't worried about how concussions affected you like that.
No.
They're now cutting up the brains of guys from the NFL that had so many concussions because so many of them have tried to kill themselves and many have succeeded.
What's that one guy? He literally, NFL guy, killed himself in his suicide letter, begged them to cut his brain open.
I don't remember his name, but I remember that.
Yeah. Wrong
Was that
with
the Will
me?
Smith movie
Oh, I don't
that
know.
he did about the concussions? Concussed or
I don't know. I didn't see that. I could only imagine that case was in it.
Yeah, I do remember what you're talking about. That there was one gentleman. I think he was a linebacker for the New England Patriots. He was number 54, and I think Teddy Bruschi.
Yeah,
Teddy
and an
Bruschi.
extreme case to. I guess it's good to say that an extreme case, right? Not.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, but they're discovering they're changing the rules in the NFL just simply because of that, right? So, in Nick's case, so he has this automobile accident. He's basically in a coma for 3 days.
Yeah.
Is it medically induced, or were you just in a coma?
I don't know. There's a lot of questions that I have about it, but honestly, it's so long ago, I don't even remember anything from the wreck.
Right.
I can tell you, I remember from the time that it happened, from that day, I was helping coach a little league team.
Uh-huh.
I remember leaving the field, went to a gas station, and went in to get a drink. And then from there, I remember waking up in the hospital 3 days later. And everything in between then, nothing.
Yeah, it just erased it. So, just out of curiosity, can you remember, so after the wreck, did you notice any kind of changes in your own behavior after the wreck, or do you know?
There's nothing. So for me, there's nothing that really. There's nothing that sticks out because I think at the time that it happens, right? Like you're still in such a developmental phase, late teens, early 20s, stuff like that. Like everything's you're still growing into that person that you are.
Right.
Right. So, and on top of that, literally they sign off on you. You're out the door, the doctor.
Yeah.
Right. And there's like where we're at, there's no go seeing a psych doctor or anything like that. They're just, you're on your way. So, and head injuries and the things like that. Like we're not talking about that stuff at that time.
Yeah, they're just like, hey, we saw that you weren't bleeding, so if you could free this bed up.
That's basically the case. Am I right?
So,
pretty much.
All right. So let's talk about the other side of the coin here after this wreck. So I'm assuming you're a believer, your family are believers.
Yeah.
You're in the hospital. I'm assuming that the church and everyone around knew this. There's going to be prayers for you, prayer vigils about you, right?
Yeah.
You come out of this.
Yeah.
Do you have this experience where this is like, it's a miracle, you're alive and everything? Did any of that kind of stuff happen?
There was, so all I have to go on is like the stories from it.
Okay.
Right.
So you don't even remember after the fact?
I remember, at that point, like when I got home, there was so much medicine involved in it that, still that week or so after it was still kind of,
right.
You're just in and out of really good naps at that point. But, yeah, I know from the injuries that I had and from everything that the doctors had told my parents and what information that my parents gave me, like I shouldn't have lived through it.
Right.
My dad's the only one that saw the truck and refused to have pictures of it or anything else like that. Like the insurance company had the pictures of it and that's it.
Yeah.
Like Dad was basically like, didn't want to talk about it. Let's not talk about it. I don't want to talk, just leave it be.
It's too much for him to think what could have been.
Yeah.
And so let's not dwell on that, right?
Yeah.
All right. So we've been kind of talking about the wreck as if it had some sort of an effect on you, possibly for bipolar. I guess nobody knows, right?
I think that sort of stuff is difficult to say all the time. Frequently, it is difficult to directly attribute stuff like that. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I guess we could say that it's possible, but we don't know for certain. So take us from that point now. After the wreck, you are living your life. You decide to get married. You start having children. From the point that later on in life, when you got diagnosed pretty recent, right? Within the last year or so?
Within the last, 5 months?
Okay. So
probably
within the last 5 months. So you've been undiagnosed this whole time.
Yes.
That's rough.
Yeah. So you're
That's
living,
rough.
it is rough because and I know people that are undiagnosed bipolar. I know they are. And it's brutal. I feel so bad for them. They suffer. And you think that when you try to tell them, you think I'm crazy and all that. And it's like, no, that's not what I'm saying. It's you're suffering. You just don't realize that you're suffering, So tell us, so you're a believer. Are you still in church?
Yes.
Okay. And so you get married and you're having children. You're still in church.
Yes.
Okay. But you have all of these things going on. Like what's happening? You're undiagnosed, but what's happening in your mind?
It's really the easiest way to explain it now, having finally getting some treatment now that's like everything's working. The best way to describe it is take the simplest feeling that you have, like the simplest emotion that you have, and then turn the volume all the way up to 10.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So and I'm trying to think of just some way to compare it, but
Just like every little wrong is like an epic.
exactly,
Yeah.
I mean,
Or it can be the other way, right? It could be like one little good thing. And you're just like so excited.
It's into the euphoric state almost.
Yeah. But every wrong is also like the worst thing that's ever happened.
there are times, so I would experience it. There wasn't much of a consistent baseline is the easiest way to, I couldn't go through long periods of time where I was just even keeled.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, in the last 5 months, I've been as even keeled as I've been in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But you go through these cycles, right? And you go really high euphoric states where you have tons of energy. You want to do all this stuff. You don't sleep very much. I would go weeks at a time doing 2-3 hours of sleep at night, just, on the go constantly. And then you hit these depressive states where weeks at a time, all you want to do is sleep. You don't want to do anything, mad at everything in the world. And it's like every little thing's a trigger, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's just like the littlest things get you. So I drove 26 today, y'all.
Your state 26.
I'm 26.
I'm feeling you.
So
Me too.
I can tell you the treatment and the meds are working, y'all. It didn't flip out. So, but I mean, the little things now they don't bother me that much, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you're going through that, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that it cost me my relationships. I mean, it's changed what life is like right now.
Mm-hmm.
Won't go into too much detail on that, but I mean, as it stands right now, and I don't mind talking about, anything's fair game, right? But I mean, it's caused me to have less time with my kids. It's caused strain on so many relationships, and I didn't know any better at the time. There for a while, it strained my faith.
Mm-hmm.
But
in what way, though? How would you say?
I question why, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm just being completely honest, because
why you? Like why you have it? Or why what?
part of the time, yeah. You cool if we get into the suicide stuff? I don't mind talking about it if you don't mind.
As long as you're comfortable, that's all.
It's you.
not gonna.
It's not us.
It's not gonna trigger or bother me at all.
Okay.
I'm cool. But
You're cool with suicide.
No,
Cool.
I mean,
Sweet.
I don't mind. Yeah, I know, right?
I'm just kidding.
I have what's a little bit of an icky question before we go there, but
Yeah.
I've heard it from other people
Yeah.
that have similar things going on. Do you ever miss it?
Do I miss what?
The highs, like, because I know some people, some bipolars will stop taking the medications because they get bored. I know that's like a weird and dark question in a way.
No.
but
I've seen that, Andy.
Wow.
There's
Yes.
one person in my life
weird.
that they stopped the medication.
Yeah, bipolars
They were
sometimes-
artists,
I
and
thought
their
of that
creativity.
person. I thought of that person immediately.
Really?
Yeah.
They lose their
it's
creativity.
not super uncommon.
Right.
It's not even creativity. It's for other people that aren't artists. It's just,
Right.
I'm mid all the time.
Yeah.
You know.
So
So that's like, I'm sorry, that feels weird. And
no, not at all. But I'm not. So I'm not like an adrenaline junkie,
Yeah, I think that's right.
and
There's
I think
a
that's
difference.
my personality. So like when I got in those states, I was very uncomfortable with it, and I think that was so. Whether I was high or low,
Both of them were uncomfortable.
my intensity level, my anger level, and aggression levels were way up because I was very uncomfortable being in either state.
So, okay, that makes
Yeah.
sense. So it's bad all around.
All around.
So you like the mid.
I love the mid.
Okay.
That's where I prefer to live at.
All right,
Yeah.
all right.
And so
Now-
before we get into the suicide
Yeah,
stuff, so you said that it affected your faith, right?
it did.
Okay. And then obviously if you're thinking about suicide, so what is it like in your faith? Are you just asking God, why do I have this? Or you're not asking that. You're just, it's the situations of your life because of it, or like what's happening here?
Why do I was asking, why do I have it? Why can't I get relief from it?
Mm-hmm.
And why is it destroying so much of my life?
Mm-hmm.
Because at the time I had this, it was cookie cutter, right? Like you had the marriage, you had the kids, had the house, all the stuff.
The minivan, the white picket fence, the whole.
Everything, right?
That's right. Yep.
And then it's like, and I was a planner. I had all this stuff planned. And boy, you talk about having, probably August of last year was when things started getting turned on its head. And that's when I started cycling. Once again, unmedicated. That's when cycling started happening a lot quicker. And then just as that.
And cycling is a term that's used, especially
Yes.
with bipolar.
Yes.
I've heard of cycling and rapid cycling.
Yes.
Bipolar disorder, where people's emotions go on this wild roller coaster.
Yes.
Very circular.
It's kind of
Very
an image of a sine wave.
Yeah.
Up, down, and the frequency, as it get to cycle, it starts to bunch together. So it goes
More
up
intense.
and down. Yep.
Quicker. Yeah. So you've had, all right. So now we can move on to the other subject. So take us there. So what's going on in your mind that says, okay, I've had enough?
Both times I just wanted relief, to be completely honest about it. I was done questioning. And once again, like, the first time was just stress related. There had been a big falling out. Some things have been said, in between. And, you talk about,
You mean a falling out in a relationship of yours?
outside of my marriage.
Okay.
Just with another person.
Okay.
It was just some things that were said that kind of triggered to where I was just like, I don't want to. I was just like, if this is where my life is heading in this direction, I don't want to deal with it. And God bless him, my son, my oldest son refused to leave me that day. Like, he's 14 and he would not leave my side that day. And, and I think part of it, and you talk about like, and I strongly believe this, right? Like God was at work throughout this whole process to where there was just things in place to where it just wasn't going to happen that day. Like because I wasn't going to do anything with my son there. I would not do that. I wouldn't, in the weird way that my brain worked, I was like, I would not do that with him there. And so I had everything, literally had everything sitting out on the bed. And his grandma showed up to pick him up. to take him back with her. And my cousin showed up 2 minutes before she showed up. And if she hadn't have showed up 2 minutes before the grandmother showed up, I'm probably not here.
Wow.
Like and you talk about like, and the more and more I think back to that, like that was May or June. The time runs fuzzy there. May or June. And so I go for the first of 2 stays. This first day was completely useless, total waste of money. They didn't do anything at this particular facility. But
Okay,
this
so
was
you're checking into a
I
facility.
voluntarily checked in. That's when I knew that something was up. Right? Like first time that I'd actually acknowledged that
you were really going to do it, and so you acknowledge that and put yourself in. So
Even so, that feels like a self-awareness that a lot of people never quite reach. Honestly.
If it wasn't for, I sat there and probably spoke with my cousin for probably 45 minutes to an hour. And she talked some sense into me. And, so I went and checked. I didn't know fully what I was getting into. Right. And so I went and checked into the ER, and, it wasn't, I will say it is not a great or glamorous experience by no means.
Yeah, I think we all are at least vaguely aware of how terrible the mental health system in the United States of America is.
But
it's bordering on pathetic.
It was not a good experience at all. But that particular so I went to the ER there. They sent me to a facility in Knoxville. Was there for 7 days. Not much happened there, to be completely honest with you. They diagnosed me with they didn't even really diagnose me with anything other than depression.
Okay.
Gave me some antidepressants, basically upped my antidepressants, sent me out the door.
So they immediately give you something to ingest.
Basically.
To alter your state with very limited diagnosis.
Yeah. And guess what happens?
I'm shocked to hear that.
Yeah. Guess what happens when you give somebody with bipolar antidepressants?
They want to kill themselves.
It makes you cycle faster.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
I was not aware of that.
Yeah, it picks you up. It's like speed almost.
Yep.
It amps you up.
Yeah. So,
I mean, obviously this is, for you to know that, so there's other facilities, but so is this, you were in an ER, so you were in a hospital? Like a regular hospital, or were you in like a treatment facility?
So I went to the ER first, and then they basically put you in a hallway. This particular ER put me in a hallway, let me sit there for about a full day, and then ambulance comes and gets me and takes me to psychiatric hospital.
Do you have anybody talking to you at this time?
Not much.
No?
Nope.
So there's no counseling really?
Nope.
Oh man, ERs are not built for that at all.
I've been to ER for this particular reason 4 times, and each time you waited to get a room.
Not for yourself.
No.
Okay.
Waited to get a room, and then you wait anywhere from 6 hours to 3 days to meet with a psychiatrist because there aren't enough.
6 hours to 3 days.
Yeah. Yep. The first time we waited 6 hours, and the other times one was a day. Well, I told you guys about it when I came back from those. One of them, we were there for 3 days, and they finally wanted the bed, so they kicked us out without, they said, we're not going to do this, and we're not going to release you. Oh, by the way, we need the bed, so you're out of here. And we couldn't get the help we needed.
Wow. Yeah. So this first stint you go in, it's pretty much a waste, and they actually diagnose you incorrectly, and they give you the wrong medication, which actually makes it worse.
Yeah.
Okay, so then at this stage, now you've got people in your life. You've got a job.
Yep.
You've got family.
Yep.
You've got your close family.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course your parents, and then the parents of the, you know what I mean? Like you've got cousins. Everybody knows, right? So now you've done this. Now, of course, I don't know the total story, but I've seen other people go through this. There's like a stigma that comes along with this. If you're the kind of person that's willing to go and check yourself into a place like this, that people will begin to think in a negative way because, well, there's something wrong with him, right?
Yeah.
Did you encounter any of that?
There were people that started, how would you put it? Making space. between
Making
me and
space,
them.
yeah.
You know, I guess that would be the best way. Putting distance between me and them.
And using that as an excuse for it or whatever? Or
I
was
would
the reason?
assume so. I was not being told that. But at the same time, though, I'll use you and Holly as an example. I had people that, was getting close to again in my life that, I mean, like I said, I think God put y'all back in my life to help me during that time, because that's when we were talking, and our friendship was getting close.
I just knew you as the weird sock dude. Like, that's all I knew. I'm glad I got to know you. We'll talk about that later. Sorry.
That's a story for a different podcast.
So you got some help,
Yes.
and now you're on the correct medicine. How has that affected your relationship with your kids and your wife and
You just
family?
fast forwarded
I know,
a lot.
that might
man.
be a big
You
jump.
fast forwarded there a bunch, buddy. But that's good. Hold that question and answer his question after this part.
Yeah.
So, in between 1 and 2, you've got all of these things going on with
Yeah.
your people, your kids,
Yeah.
and all this, right? So, take us to that second stint. So you've already had this idea, and then you're
Yeah.
glad that you were talked out of it. Your cousin, thank God, your cousin was there, right?
Yeah.
But yet it comes again.
Comes again.
This is because you are still undiagnosed.
Stronger. Yeah. Come stronger next time.
Okay.
Right? Because if it doesn't happen the first time and things just get left alone, I mean,
Or possibly exacerbated with the wrong medication.
exactly.
Which it's so hard to find the right medication for people anyway, sometimes, even when you're going in the right direction.
Exactly. So, so this time is 40th birthday, believe it or not. Just going into, just to give a generalized overview of it, I was not in a good spot. I was not in a good headspace. Everything's falling apart around me. Right. I was convinced that I was losing everything. Yeah. My kids, everything. At that point, the reality had fully set in that, the marriage is not, there's no saving the marriage. I mean, and that's being kind of just drilled into my head.
The unfortunate thing that I can say from my own experience in my first marriage was that if you go undiagnosed for a long time, you're acting as you would consider normal, and your normal may not be normal for everyone else.
Exactly.
And so they're having to endure these cycles that you're going through, and it's affecting them emotionally, mentally, physiologically, even, to the point where your kid might say, I got a stomach ache, because you know what I mean? Like, so you have to, that's the hardest part, is that you don't realize that because you were undiagnosed for so long, and so was I, undiagnosed for so long, I had no idea that the trauma that I had went through as a child was affecting me in my adult life. I had no clue that was even feasible.
I said this on a recent podcast, but the unreliable narrator thing. You're an unreliable narrator for your own
for
life.
our own life.
Yes.
That's exactly right.
It's crazy.
So at some level, for me, I can't say this for you, but I can say this for me, that as I'm living my life, and I think that as I'm the unreliable narrator of my life, that I don't realize the damage that I've already done. And unfortunately, it's not a get out of jail free card whenever you get the diagnosis.
No, you're right.
You still have to live with the consequences of the actions that you have. And that's the worst part, which would make you want to cry out, God, why am I this way?
Yeah.
Right? Look at this. I've lost, I remember I had those moments too out there yelling at the sky, like, why am I like this? Why have I destroyed this relationship?
Oh, exactly.
Exactly.
And I was there. Like I said, my 40th birthday. And I mean, it was literally, I raided the medicine cabinet, tried to ingest anything I could get a hold of. I had a bottle of whiskey at the house, tried to drown it down. I mean, and I just remember sitting there in the living room and just a handful of stuff. And I was the last thing I said was, I'm sorry. And I just threw it all in my mouth. And I went and laid down, and I remember falling asleep, and I woke up, and I've never been so mad to wake up in my whole life. Like, that's how far off I was. And, thankfully, Thankfully, my support system, my aunt, you all, had one other friend was there to support me, to help me get through hell. Like I say, my emergency contacts, right? Like, every day since, we went, I finally got the right help, right? Finally got in the right place. Did have to go back, do the emergency room thing again, went to a different facility this time, got the right diagnosis, and they had therapy sessions during that. Honestly, I'll get to the question that you were talking about right now. I don't mind saying I get to see my kids 1 hour a week is what I get. I get supervised visits right now because while I was in treatment this last time, some things were put out on me just because of what had happened, and wasn't.
It's the snowball effect.
Yeah, it was the consequence.
Happens.
It was the consequence of my actions.
Right.
And
but it feels like it's all raining down on you.
It does, but I mean it is
the unreliable narrator.
Yeah,
it
exactly.
Keeps coming back, Andy,
just like what you said. So couldn't go home. Parents put me up in a hotel for a week. Came over and stayed with Rick and Holly for a couple nights. Went and because I needed to be back in Knoxville for some things. Spent a little time in my car for a week. I see my kids for 1 hour a week for supervised visitation, just because that's what is agreed to right now.
Well, now that you have the treatment and diagnosis and everything, hopefully that'll turn around, and the powers that be will look at that and
that's the thing about it though, like where I was at, if I had kept on going, like without getting the help or anything like that, this is not for me, this is about, hey, I'm on now in the best shape that I've been in a long time mentally. This is a journey in progress. I'm not done by any means, right? But if I didn't have the right people, if God hadn't put the right people at the right times, I'm not here. I mean,
the people in your life, like your family and everybody, they're relieved that
these two right here,
that you're getting treatment,
have been amazing. Yeah, my family's been really supportive of me. Reconnected with God through this.
If you don't mind me asking, how'd you connect again with Holly and Rick? If
Phone
that's
call.
Okay. Oh, really? Okay.
Phone call.
I was thinking
she
Facebook.
reached out to you, or you reach out to Holly?
I reached out.
Okay.
We've kind of had that. It's like, pretty much.
That's kind of how our friendship has been. It's been we may talk every day and then not talk for 2 years, and then randomly one of us will call the other, and we just pick right up where we left off.
We were on a trip. I remember I can't remember where we were going, hon, but seems like we went through Knoxville. Where were we going?
Yeah, that's when we were doing the movie.
Oh, that's right.
Nashville.
That's right. When we went to Nashville for the movie, and we were going through Knoxville, and she was like, "I need to call my friend Nick," and I was like, "What? Who?" She's like, "He lives here, Nick, my friend from college." Is like, "Oh, the sock guy." We'll get to it later, I promise. I'm not going to leave you hanging.
The teaser.
Yeah.
You notice what's right next to you, right?
Look at that. Bam.
Look at Eye Candy's feet.
Eye Candy's bare feet. We'll talk about this later.
Yeah.
So, all right. So,
Do I
Nick,
need a
listen. So, from what I'm hearing, okay, yes, you have supervised visits, but you get to see your kids.
Yeah.
And so now you know that prior to, if something had not have intervened, that your kids could have witnessed something happening to you.
They could have.
So it's not necessarily a bad thing that these people decided this for your children.
Not at all. No.
See, did you hear what he just said? Not at all.
Right.
That is the road to recovery.
Right.
Because if you're lashing out in anger, like, you sons of bitches, you're keeping me away from my kids, and I would feel that way.
And a lot of parents can justify that feeling.
Absolutely. Yeah. But for him to say that, that's saying, okay, now I know.
Yeah.
I've got to get dad's got to get better. And if dad can get better, then I can be dad.
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
that's awesome.
I look at it as, and this is Well,
And
was
yes, I did
telling
say
some-
sons of bitches on a Bible podcast.
But I mean, like for me, it's the 1 hour. I mean, honestly, for me, it's the best hour that I get during the week.
Yeah.
I mean, it is my best hour. But that 1 hour that I get now is better than the week that I would have with them if I was going untreated.
Right.
Like, I mean, in all honesty, like,
I agree with you.
know.
And after my divorce, seeing my kids for a couple hours we'd go to the park and just hang out and do whatever. And I'd go home and there'd be nothing to do and I'd be bored and I'd be this, but those looking forward to after work, getting to see them for a couple hours. And then, that was great.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. It's the highlight. I always I tell them when I see them every Saturday, I'm like, this is the highlight of my week.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, and it's not like it's something that's uncordial or anything like that. And there's no ill will. I mean, it's just, this is what needs to be done to get better right now.
Yeah.
So
Can I ask a question?
yeah.
And for anybody that's listening that may be struggling with something where they don't seem like things are going right in their life, like you were dealing with, that were unmedicated, can you maybe talk about a little bit when you were reaching out and you had friends that were at least responding to what you were talking about because they had an emotional connection with you? But when you sit in front of a healthcare worker
Yeah.
and you're trying to talk to them and you're trying to explain to them because they only get like 15 minutes of you,
Yeah.
can you talk about how you were able to convince somebody to help you with the right treatment?
Well, the first time I didn't do very well at it at all.
That's understandable.
I mean, I think first it's about getting in front of the right people.
That's true.
And just general family care doctors are probably not going to be the best. I mean, it would be best to get them to refer you to
there's
someone.
Definitely steps and processes.
I would say if anything,
Because I'm the part that one thing that you said, why me? Mm-hmm. And there's I don't know, and we kind of go back to the chosen part a lot in some of our podcasts when we talk about them. Do you remember the discussion? I don't know if you've seen it, but I know Rick has, and some of us have had the Barabbas conversation with Jesus. Because Barabbas had an issue with himself, and he wasn't healed.
Oh, Barabbas?
Was it Barabbas?
No,
it was Barnabas. Was it Barnabas?
Oh, you're talking about one. Yeah. Okay. So are you talking about one of the disciples?
Yes.
Little James.
It wasn't little James.
The one that wasn't healed?
Yes.
So he comes to Jesus because he wants to be healed, and then Jesus doesn't heal him?
Yes. He talks
That's little James.
That's
Is it little James?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I got the name wrong.
Yeah.
Really bad with names in
We
general.
haven't met Barabbas in the Chosen yet.
Yeah,
So
sorry.
we didn't get the early view on the season there.
We're not that special. So little James goes to Jesus and talks about his condition because he sees everybody around him getting healed. Mm-hmm. And in your situation, you'd be the same way. Mm-hmm. Why? And then one of the questions I would ask is because you were tired of asking why, is because did you feel like you weren't getting any answers?
I think part of me was just.
How do you know when something's wrong with you?
Well, you're asking.
Well, I mean, you look at what's going on around you.
Once you've had like a literal emergency, right? But before that point,
Yeah.
that shit just looks normal, man. Like your life looks normal to you up until that point, but there's a lot of ground to cover before a suicide attempt, and it all frequently just looks normal to people that are living it. Right? So it's a difficult question.
I'll be honest with you. I put too much confidence in the wrong people.
That can happen.
And so I was getting
the wrong feedback?
I was getting the wrong diagnosis, or I was getting the wrong medication given to me. I mean, to be completely honest with you, like, hey, here's antidepressants, take these.
How long were you on those?
Off and on 7-8 years, probably.
Wow. Yeah.
I would take them, start dealing with the cycling, and then take myself off of them.
So little James has a conversation with Jesus. Now, the whole conversation in that story is speculative because it's not recorded in the Bible. But he comes up and asks Jesus, why haven't I been healed?
Because Jesus has healed in Samaria,
Yes.
Samaritans, and goes on and
Yes.
on. And then he starts healing all kinds of other people.
And close friends.
But little James is the disciple, and he still has this gimpy leg.
Yes, he does.
And he wonders, why haven't I been healed?
Why haven't you? And part of it was he never asked.
Mm-hmm.
He never asked. He was afraid to ask. And so when he talked to him, and Jesus' his response was as perfect as it could be, was that in order for you can actually be a better servant working through what you have, improved to other people with the same condition of who I am. And you can get past it.
In fact, Jesus tells him that he will never be healed.
He did.
Jesus tells him that you won't be healed on this side.
Not this side.
And which makes him cry, right?
Yes.
But that's a good. I'm glad you're bringing that up.
So
we comfort those with the comfort that we've been given.
Yeah.
So
we help others with the help that we've been given.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of where you're going with that.
I'm going with that because I'm asking for somebody that's listening and maybe dealing with something that you've struggled with. And when they sit in front of people that can help them, how do you explain to them what's going on so that where you're at now, you can help them ask maybe the right questions?
Yeah, I would say honestly, let in with honestly. Honesty is the biggest thing.
And there's no right answer. No right answer.
And I'm just trying to think of all the things that I felt like that I told to people that I told the doctors and stuff that didn't work for me. I mean, the first thing is if you're at the point to where you are at the ideation phase or you're thinking about hurting yourself or these thoughts are coming to before that,
don't suppress it.
Don't suppress that at all. That's not that's nothing to play with because from my own personal experience, that's a very short walk off a cliff.
When you opened up in that realm to the person that you were talking to, did you see a change in them to help you better?
It got quick.
Awesome.
I mean, you can tell the difference in their face. When you start talking about that stuff, the whole mood in the room changes. You start it's different.
Awesome.
And and anybody that's even the thought enters their head or, it's just kind of floating out there, you got, by all means, get help. Let people know because.
Well, just so that everybody knows that 988 is the nationwide
suicide
call
hotline
center.
Yes.
That will direct you to the nearest. You can call or text 988 and get help. Whether you're thinking about suicide or you just think something's wrong, someone can help you get help in your area.
I just heard today a statistic from 2022, and of course 2023 is going to be worse, but suicide has passed heart disease in deaths, leading cause of death in America.
There's an interesting conversation being had around that, actually. Yeah. And
it's pretty serious.
And
135 a day.
Nihilism?
135 people unalive themselves, as Tiziana says, a day in America.
It's the encroaching problem that Nietzsche actually warned about, apparently, which is like when religion wanes and nihilism becomes more widespread. Like, how does a population, not an individual person, but a population handle that? And will it be handled well or will it be handled poorly? And it's a thing we might actually be looking at.
Well, we don't like a vacuum. Something will fill it.
Not everybody could be as chipper about nihilism as me.
Yeah. Look at you guys. I want to ask or just kind of talk to you a little bit. As someone who's been there with a handful of pills, I understand that. I'm not bipolar. I don't understand that. Did you ever have anybody, and this happened to me, tell you that if you take medicine for it, you don't have enough faith in God to heal you? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had that happen. It right here in sweet little Hendersonville, I had that happen to me, and it was crushing to me.
Had it happen in multiple states. God. So
wow,
that's the frustrating part about it is my thoughts on it is that we've got doctors, we've got medicine here to help with that. And it doesn't make you weak.
I was told that just because I said, well, 150 years ago, they couldn't see cancer. They called it consumption. So they couldn't see it in a microscope, but now they can. That doesn't mean in 150 years we won't be able to see whatever this is, assuming that we're still all around. Somebody won't be able to see what this is.
No.
To see.
You didn't mean us. You meant the human race.
Yeah, the
'Cause
human
I was
race.
like, I'm not going to be here in 150
No,
years.
not me either. But I also want to stress that sometimes when you're down in that dark place and you're asking why, or even after you've come out of it and you're asking why, my husband looked at me one time and he goes, why not you? Why do you think that you don't have to suffer? Why? I don't understand. And I was like, whoa. He said, most every other human being on the planet has to suffer with something. And so what are you going to take away from it? What are you going to learn from it? How are you going to use it to make our family stronger, to make your faith stronger in God? And so hopefully as Christians, we can come to that place. But when you're down there in that deep pit, it's hard to even see the light at the top. It's just so bad.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that was the thing about it is it's so easy to, in hindsight, it's like, man, why wasn't I stronger at that point? Right. It's, why didn't I have more faith at that point? But when you're in it, strong is as simple as,
surviving.
It's just, you got to get through. And when you're living in it, there's not much strong to it.
I think it's a common misconception, within the Christian church, when it comes to mental health, because we read stories about demonic possession, and maladies of the mind, that we think that because Jesus cast a demon out of a person or because Jesus healed a person of something, that if you have enough faith, then Jesus is going to cast this malady out of you. There is a big misconception, especially in the South, I will say, because it's really not the same way in a lot of the churches out West, but here in the South especially, there's an ignorance towards it. I'm not saying that Southern people are ignorant. I'm saying that it's went in through tradition for so long, and they have such a diehard faith that what Jesus says can happen, and then if you have enough faith, if you have the faith of a mustard seed, then you can look at the mountain and say, "Be thou removed." And then I know people that say, "Well, then you better bring your shovel,"
But they also say you still have sin in your life.
Right. Well, there's always going to be that person in the faith that's going to come from this ignorant position that, that you could have a malady, that could God fix it for you? Well, all of us Christians are going to say, yes. Am I wrong? All of us, we have enough faith to believe that, yes. Will God?
Sometimes our healing is not on this side.
But a lot of people say, well, will God do that for you? And so if you don't have enough faith, you're not going to say yes, right? The idea is that true faith is the evidence of things unseen, the substance of things hoped for. Right. So if you're going to show faith, then you've got to believe that God's going to heal you. You'll hear this in a lot of these faith healing churches, a lot of these churches, a lot of the prosperity gospel preaching that I hear, the people that I loathe entirely because they're taking advantage of people and that false hope.
That's a part of the message.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And so to me, like when I heard Nick say tonight, no, it's okay. I totally understand. I'm glad I have the hour. And I'm like, right on, man. Like to me, that shows a sign of maturity and that you've gotten yourself at this, like in this, you're level-headed enough to say, okay, this is where I am today. I'm going to work with today.
Oh, yeah.
He's trusting the process. He's doing the work.
Right. And to me, that's having faith in yourself. And I'm sorry, there's nothing wrong with that. Have faith in yourself.
I'm glad you finally got the help. I'm finally got the right diagnosis.
I'm proud of you.
And you're not the only one that's got these guys in your corner because, Rick's been there for a lot of folks. He's listened to me several times. I've called him and said, hey, I just got to talk. And he's always, when I call to talk to Rick, most of the time he's like, I got to go. But a couple of times I've said, hey, I need to talk. And it's like he stops the world and listens to what's going on. So
couldn't ask for better people.
Yeah,
really couldn't.
Not to mention, I'm incredibly good looking. What can I say?
From the back.
Oh, wait. Did Holly say that?
From the back. So, Nick, tell me right now, okay, so how is you said it improved your faith, right? So let's talk about that for just a minute before we wrap this up. What has it done for your faith?
If I was to sum it all up, this whole years and years of all this and coming to where I'm at now, I believe, and I truly believe, God is so much bigger and is so much more encompassing than I ever understood.
Amen.
Because for the things that happened to me and to look at that and all the different pieces that had to come together for me to even still be here. And you go back to the wreck and you go back to the suicide attempts and you go back to all that. There was so much more outside of me that I didn't have control over. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. This was the right people in the right spots and the right things happening at the right time.
Well, that's right. Your cousin showing up.
Right.
Waking up. I mean, you took all those pills. You were done. You were done. Pills, alcohol, you should have been done. And you woke up.
You're crying out and he's standing right there.
Yeah. I mean, no matter what I've done, God's been there.
Yep.
And, at the end of the day, I'm here. He hasn't given up on me.
Absolutely.
And so, I believe that through all this, God's much bigger than what I ever gave him credit for.
Yeah.
So
I was listening to Max Lucado share his testimony on the way up here, and if you haven't heard it, you should probably go listen to it. But he said, I came to a point where I realized that if God can raise Lazarus from the dead, my problems seem mighty small in comparison to the power that took. And he said it just put in perspective my alcoholism, and I had no idea that Max Lucado was dealing with all of that in the past 10, 20 years. And I mean, this is somebody we all know. Like, we all have a book probably on our bookshelf that has Max Lucado's name on it.
Several.
And here he was struggling, sitting in the parking lot of the convenience store drinking.
Yeah.
After church. I mean, it's insane, but he finally said, if God can raise Lazarus from the dead, and I know how much Rick like Lazarus, love Lazarus, but
Lazarus.
Blame Lazarus. That's the Andy Bishop special.
He wrote a book.
What happened to me, buddy?
I was unmuting myself and instead soloed myself, which is the same as saying I muted literally everyone.
Oh, so
right as you said the word bishop too. So.
I said it's an Andy Bishop special, and he's like, no.
Yeah.
Click.
Yeah, no. It did actually record everything. It's just you couldn't hear it because I hit the wrong button.
A little bit of
Sorry.
awesome sauce
I
there.
didn't get to hear myself talk. I'm so disappointed. Man. Yeah. Well, so before I let Billy ask his final question like he always does, just out of curiosity, what's up with the socks, bro? I gotta know. Here's the deal. So my wife always talked about it, and I'm like, what are you talking about? What is this guy? Let's hear it. If you could see the look on my wife's face. I love it.
you had to do this, didn't you?
I sure did.
Hey, just so you know.
Ralph is waving his bare feet.
I got this thing with feet. I don't like them.
I got some pretty French.
I think I've got
Flintstone
just
feet.
regular socks on today. I usually have. I don't like bare feet.
Well, you certainly are cutting off a revenue stream on the internet. But that's your own choice.
Your
so
OnlyFans isn't going.
No. I just I don't even like my own bare feet, y'all. There's been one My daughter painted my toenails once. I took a picture of it. And I sent it to a couple of people. She has a picture of it.
Oh, we got to see this.
Which is the only picture of my feet that has ever been taken.
If you'll just go to the burrowsburrito.com/Nick's toes.
Yes.
That'd be awesome.
Yep. But
not a very
I don't know.
fan.
I'm just
Do you sleep with socks on?
I do sleep with socks.
Oh, I can't do it.
No way.
That's a sin.
I would punch you in the mouth.
Only in the winter.
So warm. So warm.
So warm.
You heathen.
Only in the winter.
So warm.
Never.
I do it in the winter time.
Never.
Not a chance. I don't even sleep under the covers in the winter.
No.
Yeah, half the
I
time.
don't-
I've always got a foot out. You
Don't
know.
do flip flops. Don't do sandals. I just don't. Yeah.
Yeah, that 1 foot out of the bed to regulate temperature. Yeah, big fan.
But it can't hang off the bed because something will come out from under the bed and get
Even
it.
Andy.
Yes.
What about the beach?
The
You wear
beach.
socks on the beach?
I don't go to the beach much.
Just for that reason, you got to go barefoot.
No swimming pool.
So if
It's
I
just-
invite you to the pool, are you going to wear your socks?
I don't
or-
swim much.
Yeah.
I don't go to the beach much, but that's for sand related issues. And
Yep.
Okay.
Not a fan of the sand.
not a fan
So
of the
this is
sand.
driving you insane.
Oh, and it's white.
Not very
It's white
comfortable.
toenail. It's white toenail polish, folks.
Probably getting better the more we
It
talk
is.
about it.
It is
Oh,
white.
we are totally putting on that.
Nice.
Yeah.
burrowsburrito.com
Andy,
/Nick's
Put that
toes.
on the.
White toenail polish.
Yeah.
There we go.
love it.
I've had to like glitter purple and stuff, man. I'll go get a pedicure right now.
I know.
Who wants it?
I'm in. Let's go.
I think I know why.
Girls' night.
I think I know why he doesn't like feet.
With Andy.
With Andy. Even Andy.
A pedicure is a cheap way to like. It's like not a massage, but
Yeah.
that's the same category of thing. It's just nice to have somebody pay attention to you like that. Yeah,
We like to be pampered.
yeah, it's pampering.
My daughter was so proud of herself for that I was like, okay, this one time.
Yeah.
I have been known to take a picture when I'm having pedicures done and send them to Nick, though.
Grossest thing in the world. Oh my gosh. It's
We
just
should
like-
all get his number and send pictures of our pedicured feet.
No, y'all
that's
leave
just
the poor
rude.
guy
Listen,
alone.
I'm that way when people like touch my feet. Except for my wife. Most people get a straight kick in the mouth.
I'm not sure that
I've come pretty close.
Well, almost. Yeah.
I don't like to see the bottoms of people's feet on TV. Don't show me the bottoms of somebody's feet on TV.
so
that is
It's
kind of-
bizarre.
that
Yeah,
is-
yeah. It's really weird.
I don't
When
like
do
it.
they do that?
I think they have a phone number for that.
Have you ever
too.
seen it? Like they're all laying in bed and the bottoms of their feet are hanging off the bottom of the bed.
Oh, yeah.
No, no, ma'am.
You don't like it, huh?
No, ma'am.
Well,
Don't
Billy.
like the tops of them. Don't bother me.
Being grossed out by feet is kind of okay.
Yeah.
But the other people, they're weird.
That is so true. But there's a place for
Yeah,
it.
Wrap us up, Billy. Wrap
That's
us
a
up.
different phone number.
All right, so Nick, everything that's happened to you in the last 20 years, and your faith has obviously gotten stronger. When you die, what do you think happens? Like instantly, like you rest, you go to heaven? Because we didn't get into what you know, like what you actually believe or what stage you're in, or so
Your eschatology.
Yeah, exactly.
I think we've touched on this a little bit. This is going to frustrate you. Okay? Believe I'll figure it out when it happens.
Okay.
Because
That'll work.
my whole thought on it, I'm open to hearing anybody's viewpoint on it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a wonderful thing to discuss. I think it's one of the great opportunities that we have, that we can discuss it.
Because
At
there's
the-
no wrong answer.
I don't think there's a wrong answer to it. I think we can both look at the Bible. I think if we can look at the Bible and say God sent Jesus here to die for our sins, everything else in the middle of that, I think, is always open to discussion. And all I know is that I'm really looking forward to seeing what that is one day.
Just not right now.
Just not right now.
I think
not
that's a
right
great way to end it for everybody. That, hey, as long as we can agree that Jesus died for your sins, the rest of it really, it's just stuff written down.
I have to be right, Ralph.
Well, in your
Oh,
mind,
you are in this room.
Nick, you should have said we can discuss it with humility.
Yeah, I'm right on. Anyway, Nick, thanks for being so honest,
Hey, thank you all
sharing
for having
that
me.
with us.
Yeah.
Appreciate all.
Absolutely. Yeah, man.
And thanks for talking about the suicide, because
Yeah.
there are a lot of people out there, and the healthcare system out here is it's verklempt. I know it is, because I went on a newscast and told the state that it is. So I'm glad that you did.
Yeah, we're not very good at it
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
U.S. I
No,
think
we're
in general.
terrible. Yeah, we need to do a better job. So thank you for talking about it, and for those of you listening, 988,
Yeah, that's for sure.
call or text.
That when your mind is there and you're thinking it's the only thing, that it's the only answer, or you want that relief, think to yourself that maybe your mind isn't working properly. Yes, your situation may seem bleak or may seem impossible. I told my wife, I won't commit suicide. I'll just move to New Zealand, because it's so random and weird, right? But I just decided one day, I was like, if it ever gets so bad that I think I'm going to end it, I'm literally going to get my passport and I'm going to fly and live in New Zealand, just because I think it's beautiful there. And that's where I'm heading.
It is.
And I don't care.
I'll go for that. I'll go.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Hey,
so you can change
take
your
me
life.
along.
You don't have to destroy it. You can just change it.
Isn't that also where they have the largest concentration of venomous snakes in the world too?
I hope not.
It's that or Australia, right?
I think it's
Because
Australia.
It's one of those.
It's
Yeah.
going to be one of them.
They have
figured
some.
something's there that eats you.
Australia's got some crazy, like, poisonous everything over there. It's been like spiders in your house and
What's that? The something plant? The one plant that if you touch it, you'll just like touch it. You'll just wish you were dead. Basically. It's just like you brush up against it, and you're just like, I
would rather
that
die.
Looks good.
I'd brush up against the plant and be like, I'm going to New Zealand. Anyway, but thanks,
Well,
Nick.
you wouldn't be too far.
Thank you.
You're right.
Hey, you could swim.
I don't think so. It'd be worth a shot. I can't even swim across the pool very much. Billy.
Good day, mate.
Yeah. Jerry.
See ya.
Sarita. Andy.
You bet.
Rick.
Yep.
Thank you.
Ralph. And my
Represent.
lovely wife, Holly.
See ya.
Thank you guys for being here all in the studio. And thanks, guys, for listening. And we will talk to you guys again next time on the Burros of Berea.
Strip on the
Peace
Barbie.
out.
Bye, y'all.
Later.
A little Vegemite sandwich.
Hey, guys, this is Rick from the Burros of Berea. Do you know how much blood, sweat, and tears it takes to make a podcast? None. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't cost a lot. And so if you guys don't mind, if anybody would like to give to help us with these episodes, it would be great. We'll put out even more content. And if you go to our Patreon page, just search for the Burros of Berea, you'll get extra notes, extra episodes, and it's pretty much free. $1 gets you a lot. Thanks, guys.
Oh, that's what I didn't do. Oh, I bounced that. I was editing an episode earlier today. There's a place where I said fuck and I didn't edit it. Better get that.
Little bitty accidente.
I think I did cut it out. I just didn't put the comedic piano noise in yet. Yeah. Who's got the good mouth trumpet?
That'd be Rick.
Play as a solo. I was waiting for Billy to like spit some fire.
You just gotta reach back there and shake the thing. Shake the thing behind.
What am I entered in here?
I said, it's a phone. He said, yeah, but where'd you get it? I said, I bought it. He said, where'd you buy it? I said, I bought it at the swap meet over a year ago. And you've had it here the whole time? I said, I don't have the ringer on. I just use it to call out. So in the middle of the night, you can call out and talk to your friends. Yeah, I can. He says, that's a pretty nice phone. He said, I wouldn't care if you put that in the living room because it was a touch tone phone and we had the dial.
Yes. Rotary.
So I didn't put it in there for a couple of months, and then I
Do you
finally.
remember the rotaries that looked like touch tones when they came out?
No, never.
So
had
it's like
one
a
of those.
rotary, but it had where you put your
Yes.
finger in it had a button.
Oh,
Yeah.
and so when I moved out just before I turned 18, he said, "I don't care if you leave that phone here." So I left my dad my phone. Because the place I moved into was a place down the street, and there was a big yellow phone with the 100-foot cord or however. Yeah, you could get it with
they're
ours.
not
You could get
allowed.
it in the guest room and shut the door.
They're not allowed to have phones in their bedrooms upstairs. So
How old are they?
17 and 15.
Really? Wow.
They must leave them downstairs at 9:30, plugged in. Yep, codes off. They comply.
I did that with the kids for a while, and then at a
And my
certain
older
point,
one is 19, and she does not.
Lexi's got straight A's. My wife's like, she's got straight A's. What do you want from her? I'm like, all right. And we got this boy living with us, and I tell him, 10:30, phone off, nobody on the phone. Last night, 11 o'clock, I'm like, dude, he said, it's my sister. That's not what I asked you. I said, I thought we weren't on phones. It's my sister. That's not what I asked you. Because I told him if he keeps it up, that will happen. He'll have to give her the phone 10:30 at night. And he was playing game on the TV. I'm like, dude, we're leaving for school at 7. It is 11. Turn off the TV. Go to sleep.
Yeah, I used to never go to bed at 11.
Tell your sister she can't call till after 10:30. That's it.
I take a nap at 8:30 now before I go to bed.
Yeah. It doesn't sound like a bad proposition there, Billy. That's nice.
Just as long as you get in the bed before you wake back
It's
up.
called sleep conditioning.
Yeah. A little nap before bedtime.
You're priming the pump. And that way you used to call it, you
Yeah.
prime the pump.
Yep.
You're priming
You
the
got
pump
it.
for sleep. If I did that, though, I'd never go back to sleep. But menopause is hard on ladies.
I'm getting
Yeah.
older every day. Sometimes I
Hey.
go to bed at midnight.
Menopause is hard on men too.
No doubt.
Wah, wah. Do we need a little horn sound effect? Wah, wah, wah.
Who do you think puts up with you guys?
Around. She's going to yeet you out the door.
Hey, come on, that's like she won't be the first.